Hey there, YouTubers. Well, it's Thursday, so the weekend is just around the corner, and it's the Packers bye week, so we're going to take a little time today and talk about the state of the team. We're going to go through each sort of phase of the team, although I do believe, looking back, since this is pre-recorded, I forgot to talk about special teams, but that's okay, because, you know, they're special. But we're going to talk about the state of the team. We're going to talk about sort of how can we sort of generally characterize this team right now. The bye week is a perfect time to do that. Unfortunately for us, the Packers bye week comes so early that there are still some question marks out there, and we have injuries that we don't know about. But we're going to talk about it all. We're going to put it all on the table, and then we're going to talk about the remaining schedule. So stick around. You're not going to want to miss Good Packer Nation morning. Good Packer Nation morning, everybody. We are going live at greenbaypackernation.com right now. Facebook, it's Thursday morning. Got some football to watch tonight. Packers on the bye week. So today we are going to be talking about the state of the team. And I named the video blog, My Fellow Packer Nationians. And I almost got all dressed up, but then I just decided I'm just going to wear the G and call it good. And we'll just make it a laid-back discussion about where the Packers are at, what kind of a team do we think we have right now, and break it down a little bit. It'll still be a little bit general at this point. And but as of right now, let me know who you are and where you're coming at me from. I see my buddy Rick is back on from down there in Jacksonville, unless you're traveling the world right now. Good to see you, Rick. Terry is here. Rudy and Peter and Piper. All right. Trent is back. Brian says good morning. Hey there, Stephanie. How you doing from California? I hope the weather is treating you well out there. We've got a little bit in here in Tennessee. Lyle says, what's up to everybody? Hey there, Candy. How you doing? Alec and Adam and Johnny is back from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Great. I imagine you're having great weather out there. My buddy Ross is back. Good to see you 2 days in a row. Ross, you shoot me a post anytime. We've got a tab on the website, or on the website now to get published, folks. So if any of you out there are aspiring writers, just go to greenbaypackernation.com, jump on there, send us some stuff, and you may see it in print. Lyle is back. Sean is back. Kirk is here. Fidel is here. Go Pack. Go from Saudi Arabia. Way to hold down the fort down there. And Rick is rolling already. Rick, man, there's one thing Rick is never short on, and that's opinions. He and I go back and forth a little bit on here once in a while, and it's actually freaking awesome. So yeah, I didn't catch it, but we'll be talking about that a little bit at a time here. Jared is back. Victoria, you have the same name as my daughter's middle name is Victoria as well. So one of my favorites. Good to see you on. And Carrie is here. Sam and Kevin and Noe Garcia, if I'm saying that right. Calvin is here and Tyler. Ross James, I would be loving anything from Ross. If I'm remembering right, buddy, you are excellent at analyzing offensive line play. And I thought that was a real intriguing, and we'll talk about it a little bit today. You know, we saw the Packers all of a sudden cut Sitton, and everybody kind of went freaky on that, and we all were in a little bit of disarray. We saw Lane Taylor. There wasn't anything we had not to like about the guy, but we had only seen him with, 2 starts, you know? So, anything about the offensive line in particular that you're seeing, I would love to hear. My buddy Ross, you didn't catch it yesterday. It's been a long time, man, but we used to work together. He used to do a great podcast called Packer Show, I guess haven't been doing that for quite some time now. But we all know how it is because his son was in sports, and I expect that probably had something to do with it. Ross is also a coach out there. Philip says, good morning in the pink. And I always say Heather Red because somehow it makes me feel more manly. But yeah, good to see you, Phil. All right. Guys, we want to talk about the state of the team right now. And it was a little difficult for me because, you have a bye week, and that's a really good time to kind of step back, take a little more time, think about what you've got going on with your team. Unfortunately, usually if you're going to do something like that, you want to have more than 3 games under your belt. So I think we can, Jared, Salmon, I think we can all kind of agree up front on this show that all of the conclusions that we might draw today are subject to change, because we do, I think all of us understand this is a team that is in development right now, and actually in development in areas where we're surprised to see development in some of these areas. Real men wear pink. That's right. Some of the positions on this team that we expected to be deep, that we expected to have strength in, are now in question. Some of those positions where we were unsure and we had question marks have proven to be a strength. All right, John is on from Germany. Way to go. Guten Tag, or Nacht, whichever it is out there right now. So we come to a bye week, and we come to it early, and I think all of us can agree with Coach McCarthy that we did need it. Whether or not you're like me, and definitely prefer it. I definitely prefer it later on, but we did need it at this point, especially on the defense. So yeah, where are we at? Let's break down the offense a little bit. There's one thing I have to mention first, and that is what I talked about yesterday for just a minute. It won't be as long today. Little Benj is out there going to be playing a different kind of football. He's going to be playing a little European football tonight in the championship game. I am totally stoked. It starts at 6:30 tonight, and I can't wait. Like tonight, I'm not even going to be thinking about football, the Thursday night game. I'm just going to be thinking about my little boy out there getting her done tonight and hopefully bringing home another championship. So I'm stoked about that. And for anybody that wants to throw a heart on or say go Benj, I think he would really appreciate that from you guys right now, and give him a boost. The kid doesn't seem to need anything. He's really intense out there. Like, I get some pictures of him, and he's just got this intensity on his face. But he also seems to be having a lot of fun. So, hey, thank you, Terry. Good morning, Ishmael. Had a little glitch there. I've been having a little bit of technical difficulties. Not too bad, but thank you so much for the hearts going across the screen. And Josh says, go Ben. I can't wait. I know any of you who are fathers, mothers, it doesn't get any better than watching your kid go out there and compete. You love them to death. You want them to win. You hate it when they lose, but most of all, you just want them to have fun and learn some skills and start to feel good about themselves, learn confidence and things like this. And so I don't have him tonight, so I guess we'll be celebrating the win that I'm assuming a little bit later on, but it's going to be awesome. Cut out for a little bit, and I have been having some. I should have reset my modem before I went. We're looking good now though. So this offensive line, all right, is this not one of those areas when if you would have asked in the off season, you would have said that yes, this offensive line next year we're going to have some question marks, but for this year we expected to be strong. We expected to have everybody back. We expected depth. We drafted Jason Spriggs, Dean Lowry. We had some guys coming on. We expected this offensive line to be strong. Now, skip ahead to a couple of days before the preseason starts, and we cut Josh Sitton. Now, all of a sudden, this offensive line became one of those question marks. We weren't exactly sure what we were going to have. And, of course, you add to that J.C. Tretter then taking over the starting center spot. Now, of course, he had a lot more reps under his belt. We had a little more confidence in him, but mostly there was anger in Packer Nation before the season began about cutting Josh Sitton. And the question was, why? Mas Cafe. The question was why. And, of course, I've heard some sort of insider information on that. Let me talk about that for a minute, because I don't think I've talked about this on the show. All right, one of the things I heard, okay, guys, I can't verify this by a second source, but what I heard is that there were people close to the situation that did say that at the time, and this will be interesting to you, I'm pretty sure I didn't talk about this yet, but that Josh Sitton and Sam Barrington got into it in the locker room, okay? And that Josh Sitton may have used a negative word that no one is supposed to use anymore in that altercation, okay? Now, again, I can't verify that, but I did hear it from some people that supposedly are close to the situation, because I'm a step removed no matter what I do pretty much right now, hopefully not for long. But if that is the case, now remember then, not only did Josh Sitton get cut, but we did not keep Sam Barrington on the team either, okay? So that could be, now to my mind, if that's the case, again, we don't know for sure. If that's the case, then a lot of questions a lot of the pieces start to fall together. Because you've got Lane Taylor. Hey, good morning, Chad from Eastern Iowa. You've got Lane Taylor, who played solid and is what could be an up-and-coming guard in the league, okay? You've got J.C. Tretter. They've already had to move a few things around, but you've got a couple solid guys. You drafted Jason Spriggs, who could move around. So if that is the case and that story is true, the fact that we cut Josh Sitton comes into much more focus at that point. Now, again, I can't say exactly whether that's the case or not, but the sources that I do have, which are a few, have brought that to my attention. So we'll leave it at that. But at this point in the offensive line, all right, here's how I've got the offensive line. I am characterizing this offensive line as extremely solid right now. I think this offensive line, number one, loves to block for Eddie Lacy right now. And when they get a chance to block for Eddie Lacy, I think they just eat up that opportunity. I think we've been doing some good things. Lane Taylor has been solid. I made the call from the first snap of the season. I said, I guarantee you the first play of the season will be Eddie Lacy right off the hip of Lane Taylor, right off that left side. And we have had, because he had something to prove. And we know one thing that Mike McCarthy will do on occasion is make these sort of prove-it plays, and we saw that happen. This offensive line I am really excited about, and part of it is because I was a little concerned about him going into the season, with J.C. Tretter, kind of a first-time starter, and Lane Taylor plugging in there, and how is he going to work with Bakhtiari? We got T.J. Lang on the other side, and we figured that he and, that our right guard was, positioned, and our right tackle position were sort of we're locked down. My question mark with Bulaga is, can he stay healthy? Knock on wood, so far so good. We'll see moving forward. And of course, with the early bye, we're going to have a grueling stretch here, okay? But this offensive line I'm really excited about, and I hope that we continue to feed the ball to Eddie Lacy. Obviously, there are, we showed it in the game against the Detroit Lions. Weren't able to truly close that game out the way we would have liked to, but tomorrow I'm going to get on and we're going to be talking about that second half. The second half of that game, I think, is different than most of us have sort of characterized it from just watching it live, in that we thought we kind of took our foot off the gas. I don't believe that's the case. I'm going to go back and look at it a little closer, but keep in mind, we had a couple of killer penalties. We had Aaron Rodgers run the ball down inside the red zone to the 15-yard line and get called back for a hold. That you've got to think is another 7 points off the board, or at least, at a minimum, 3 points. But this offensive line is primed and ready to do some blocking for Eddie Lacy. And so how about Eddie Lacy, right? Eddie is a beast I see coming across right now. And John is making a great characterization. Thanks, John. John Thompson out there. He says it's a love-hate bye week. And I can't think of a better way to say it. It's a love-hate bye week. We need it, but man, could we use it. We're going to wish we had it about week 8, or I think 8 is the latest you can have them. We're definitely going to wish we had it. But you got to take what they give. Now, keep in mind, the Packers, I think it's after the Thursday night game against the Bears, so we have this mini bye. We have a few extra days, and we will definitely take advantage of that. But Eddie Lacy, has he not shown, coming back, it's contract year for him, he had to drop some weight. He did all of that without losing beast mode, without losing Hulk smash. This guy is primed and ready to go. I hope that we continue to use him. And obviously, I've said this from the beginning. I'm not stepping off of it. I am glad that we also signed James Starks, okay? He has not had a good year to my mind right now. Last year was his best year, his career year for him to some extent. Now, we're asking about C.J. Spiller, who has signed with the Seattle Seahawks. I've said from the beginning I could care less whether we sign him or not. C.J. Spiller, if we sign him, you watch, he's going to be on there. He's going to play about 3 games for the Seahawks, and then he's going to be out for the season with an injury. But it's all about Eddie Lacy, how this offense begins to run. We talked about him as being a true heartbeat. He can be a heartbeat of this offense, because what is the heart of an offense? It should be the run. There are times, have been times when this offense has been a pass-first offense and the run kind of develops out of that. But what I think we're really seeing is, and Mike McCarthy mentioned that the run game is ahead of the pass game on this Packers offense right now. So let's go with what's working and let the pass game develop out of the run. Eddie Lacy is ready to take that step. He's ready to drive home a win for us. And of course we know, look at the December schedule. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show. And Eddie Lacy is going to be a big, I got shots fired at CJ. Yeah. We know we can count on James Starks to some extent. He hasn't been good early in the season, but we also know that if we just feed the ball to Eddie Lacy and let these blockers get excited about doing that, that we're going to be okay and the passing game is going to develop. We're going to get better and better. They're going to get more on time. So, I think we need to keep feeding the ball to Eddie Lacy. But then how about the passing game? How about the tight ends? Obviously, right now, we are looking at the Jared Cook situation. We have nothing right now. We won't know anything until these guys get back. We won't hear anything, I don't believe. I think when we get back, we'll start to get some information on Jared Cook. But you're looking at a guy that just showed what kind of a weapon he could be. We saw him flash it in the preseason, but you always have to see it in the regular season because then you've got the freaking defenses out there doing what they do. He showed a little bit even during the Vikings game, but now he is injured with a high ankle sprain. We don't know exactly what the extent of that injury is right now. So big time question mark there. Which brings the question of Richard Rodgers, who I think has been solid so far. He has lost a little weight. Not only has Richard Rodgers, he caught a brilliant pass in the Jaguars game. He is not the same kind of a threat, obviously, that Cook is going to be. But Richard Rodgers has done some good things, including a beautiful backside block in the game against the Detroit Lions that sprung Eddie Lacy for one of his long, I think it might have been the 14-yard gain or the 24 I think that he had. I think he had a 9-14 and a 24 or something like that in that game. But that was a backside block by Richard Rodgers. He is a willing blocker. He's not the best blocker out there, I don't think, but he is a willing blocker, and I think he's developed. He's lost a little weight, and I think he's going to, obviously he's going to get a lot of snaps coming up in these next few games. I definitely don't expect Jared Cook to be back for the Giants game. To my mind, I think that's a stretch, and I think if it's a stretch, they're going to hold him back anyway, because I feel like they will expect they can be a little conservative with Jared Cook to keep him healthy down the stretch. And, of course, I am going to add to the tight ends the fullback position, Aaron Ripkowski. He's another guy. We're not going to know anything about his back injury for a while here. We've just got to sit on our hands about this. Aaron Ripkowski, he's a guy who can catch out of the backfield. He doesn't have the verve of the John Kuhn. He doesn't have the chant behind him yet, but he's been doing some good things. Trent Thayer is mentioning the law firm of Rodgers and Rodgers, and yeah, we're going to have to see a lot of that. This Packers team, one thing they are not going to do is change up their offense because we've got Richard Rodgers on the field rather than Jared Cook. They're going to assume Richard Rodgers can go out there and catch the ball. And Detroit last year away, he showed he can do it. And I like Richard Rodgers, to be honest. He's not going to be a Jermichael Finley. He's not going to be a Jared Cook, but I like the guy. And that when he sees this opportunity, to me, he is the kind of guy that will maximize it. So, yeah, we still won't hear anything about Ripkowski, but that 21 package was starting to look good. We saw Mike McCarthy mention it, and the fact that he started to like what he saw. And now, you kind of take it off the field with Aaron Ripkowski coming out in that, so that package then becomes basically unavailable unless you work in somebody that doesn't function quite as well as Ripkowski. You really want that fullback in there. I think we're going to be okay, but I think we may take a step back in terms of the tight end position for a little bit here. We're just going to have to wait and see how Jared Cook is. And of course, we saw it was an ankle injury before the season began that held him out, or an ankle surgery, I think, that he had. We'll see what happens. But again, when he got back on the field and was healthy, he was a threat. So how about our wide receiver core, okay? So our wide receiver core, to some extent, usage is the question mark. Our wide receivers and Aaron Rodgers in particular, we know we've got a solid quarterback, right? He took a step back in the Vikings game. Part of that is due to the fact that the Vikings have the best defense in the NFL right now. I mean, maybe the Denver Broncos you could argue, but the Vikings are out there playing. They are balling on defense. However, we have also seen where all of us, to some extent, we expected with Jordy Nelson back, this offense to sort of automatically hit its stride in the passing game, and that hasn't been the case. And Rick is asking about Abby too. One thing I've got written down here, I've got usage as the question mark in the wide receiver core. We put Jordy on the field, of course. We put Randall Cobb on the field, of course. We've got this Davante Adams question mark, but Davante Adams has done some good things. A fantastic touchdown catch in the game against the Detroit Lions, but we haven't seen Jared Abbrederis. And of course, we've got Janis, who's had the cast on his hand. I think the wide receiver core looks very deep, just like we expected. I think the wide receiver, we'll lump Aaron Rodgers in with that because that's where the ball comes from. But I think this offense, in terms of getting on the same page with Aaron Rodgers, really took a step forward in the Detroit Lions game. And I think we are going to have a chance to see consistency now because we've had the bye week. They'll have a little extra practice time. And coming back with the game against the Giants are a team who, yes, I think their defense has done better than I expected them to do, but they're not a truly disruptive defense like the Minnesota Vikings. More maybe in the lines of the Detroit Lions, who have a few guys who can do some things. But I expect now here's the point where we talked about no excuses for the wide receiver core, and here is the point where there are no longer any excuses. We have to answer Rick Mahdi's question about Jared Abbrederis. These guys have to perform now, or if Davante Adams does not perform, we need to put in Abbrederis. We need to put in Ty Montgomery because Montgomery has done some really good things. And so it's time for this offense to truly begin to click. And Mike McCarthy has shown that he is committing himself to the run game. If we continue to do that and open up the pass out of that, one of the big question marks usage-wise is, are we going to play the middle of the field? Are we going to play the seams? If we get a single high safety, are we going to play those seams? If we've got, like a cover two, are we going to play the middle? Are we going to throw the ball to the middle of the field? There is one thing that stood out to me more starkly than anything in the offensive gameplay against the Detroit Lions, and that is that we worked the middle of the field. And we found Mike McCarthy gave away his reasons to stay away from it to some extent. It was a safety reason. When you work the middle of the field, you truly risk players like Randall Cobb, a guy who has been injured in the past. He's as tough as it gets, and he can play as well injured as anybody on our team. But this is a risk that we're going to have to take, and we saw Jared Cook went out with the high ankle sprain. These kind of things can happen, but we've got to work the middle of the field. All right, so Jordy is starting to click. Ty Montgomery is really getting back. He looks healthy. He has done some good things. Of course, we've got the question with Davante Adams, who I think he is showing that he's ready to come on. Remember that his rookie year, he came on at the end of the season. Then he had all the expectations second year and kind of fell well short of that. But this is a wide receiver core that really, I believe, can get it done, all right? So offensively wise, I guess if I was going to summarize, one of my big question marks is, are we going to work the middle of the field? The first one to me is, are we going to continue to run the ball effectively? If that happens, I think this offense is going to hit its stride right now, and watch out. I don't care who you are. We talked about maybe we're still looking up to the Minnesota Vikings because their defense maybe is a little bit better than ours. We only scored 14 points against them. If this offense gets in stride and commits to running the ball and does it well, watch out. Even the Minnesota Vikings, I think, will not be able to stop us. And there's some interesting points about the way the Minnesota Vikings, to some extent, we've talked a lot this week about whether they're for real or not. I believe they are for real. Obviously, we've seen them because they've proved it over a matter of not just one season, but they've carried it over into this season as well, the 2016 season. But some of what they're getting done is a little bit due to the way they're doing a great job. Basically setting what they're doing is just a straight line set covering every gap, and from that dropping out and bringing the pressure, which is really interesting. It's something that not a lot of defenses do. It's a very interesting look. But offenses are going to figure this look out, and once they do that, I think they will be to some extent exposed. And the Packers are the team that can do that. If any team in the league, especially the NFC North, can do that against the Minnesota Vikings and figure out what they're doing defensively, the Packers are the defense to do it. So, I do have some question marks. Will we continue to commit to the run? Will we work the middle of the field? But then you look at the fact that, we talked about the fact that had James Starks picked up Glover Quinn on that, almost one-handed touchdown pass to Jordy Nelson, that would have been a touchdown as well. If that was a touchdown, then Aaron Rodgers, almost a third of Aaron Rodgers' passes in the Detroit Lions game would have been touchdowns at that point. 1/3 of every pass, 1 out of 3, would have been touchdowns in that game. I think he threw 17 balls or whatever, had 4 touchdowns. That would have been 5. This is an offense that's primed and ready to go. So let me know what you think about the offense. I want to do it. Let's do it this way. If you think if you're all for the offense, give me a thumbs up. If you're not sure, if you're still in a wait and see approach, let's approach it this way. Because down south, if you say bless your heart, if you say if somebody does something wrong and you say bless your heart, then you can say anything about them you want. So if you think this offense is primed and ready to go, give me a thumbs up. If you're not sure and you're like, oh, bless their heart, they did some good things, you can hit the heart button right now. If you are not sold on the offense, I know some of you probably out there still are not sold. It's a wait and see approach. You can hit the angry button right now. I see a lot of thumbs up. I think that Detroit Lions game, the first half of that game, and again, we're going to analyze the second half as well tomorrow, really showed that, and we talked about this. Aaron Rodgers said it. They had just not hit the rhythm yet. I said, to my mind, it looked like an offensive team that had all the weapons. I'll take this personnel over any other personnel out there. That's why the CJ Spiller thing to me, I just could care less, to be quite honest. But it did look like they needed some practice. They needed to get out there and get some reps, which they did not have in the preseason. So yeah, there's a lot of bless your hearts out there. Bless their hearts. They did some good things, but I'm going to wait. Let's see. I'm going to watch them play against the Giants. I want to see them. I want to see them in the second half of a game. Finish it off. It's my terrible Southern accent, so my apologies to all the folks from Charlotte. There's one or two from Charlotte that I'll jump on. Anthony says we've got lots of weapons. Jared says he's worried about the offense. Yeah, okay. This is, Aaron from Ohio, good to see you. Go Pack Go. That's a perfectly legitimate, because to some extent I'm somewhat in that category too, but I am looking up right now because of what I saw in the Detroit Lions game, not just the first half, but the second half as well. Because again, you look at a couple of the critical penalties in that game and we would have put more points on the board. I don't think we took our foot off the gas. There are 1 or 2 plays that I think could have been less conservative, or more. We could have gone out there and gone after them a little bit more. And I haven't. Again, I've got to finish going through. I don't even have my own opinion completely solidified on that. But this offense, to my mind, state of the team, I think they're in good shape. That doesn't mean there aren't still question marks. Personnel-wise, I think we're in good shape. All right, the defense, guys. This is one of those, the defensive side of the ball. Is this not a flip-flop from what we expected before the season began? We expected the defensive line to be a question mark because we're going to be missing Pennell for 4 games. We had Kenny Clark in there who hadn't shown a lot in the preseason. And now we look at it. And then, of course, the inside linebackers as well. This middle of the field and moving Clay Matthews back outside was the biggest question mark in the preseason for the defense. And now look at what we've got. We have got Mike Daniels is an absolute stud out there. He is playing in ways that 3-4 defensive tackles or ends, whichever way you want to call them, generally cannot play. Now you've got Kenny Clark. When Kenny Clark lines up next to Mike Daniels, he plays different ball. He's just a different kind of a player, but he's gotten a lot of snaps. He must have had 35 snaps in this game or more. He's getting a lot of snaps. Now we'll have Pennell coming back. And then you look at the inside linebacker situation, and again, who are we going to bring in? And then we cut Barrington, and it's like, well, he was one of our veterans. Jake Ryan, we're not sure whether he's going to take a step forward or not. And Blake Martinez had the communication device on in his helmet, and he's a rookie. Joe Thomas was a guy that, we knew he wasn't going to be good in pass coverage. He comes out on the field, and he is a true thumper right now. He has been making sticks. Jake Ryan has been making sticks. Ryan with a nice pass defense. I'm thinking the game against the Vikings, I think it was. A nice pass defense. And then Blake Martinez out there on the field just playing balls to the wall with blood running down his nose. And regardless of how they're playing individually, look at what this team is doing to the running game of offenses around the league right now. Adrian Peterson, we don't care. We could care who it is out there. We are stuffing the run. Not quite as good by the time all was said and done against the Detroit Lions, but one characterization with 3 games in is this defense is now hanging its hat on stopping the run without any question. Michelle is here. How are you doing, Michelle? We are talking about the state of the team and the defense. And right now, this defense, one thing it is showing is you will not run the ball. We are drawing a line in the sand. And Rick is saying, okay, all right, this is a great point, all right? Let's heart this up if you agree with Rick Motti right now that Martinez is the inside linebacker that we've been looking for a long time. I actually think you could make the case for Jake Ryan being that guy right now. But heart Rick Motti if you think Martinez is the guy we've been looking for a long time, and he's coming in as a rookie and doing it right now. Again, is that not the opposite of what we expected? Yeah, Rick, you're hearting yourself, man. Come on now. That's okay. That's all right. But this is the opposite of what we expected coming into this season, right? Now you look at the defensive backfield. I'm going to talk about them together. You look at the defensive backfield, and now we've got question marks. The number one question marks come from injuries, because the opposite is true of the defensive line and the linebackers. We had injuries to defensive linemen. We had Dayton, the elephant, going out. We've got LaTroy Guion out. We've got Clay Matthews, for crying out loud, going out. And we still maintain the standard. Now on the defensive backfield, Morgan Burnett goes out, and things to some extent fall apart. There were way too many explosive plays in that game against. And this is, we know that this is the characterization of our defense. We are going to give up some yards. You can mark my words. You can agree, disagree with the way we do it, but you will see this team give yards. It's going to happen by the way we play the defense, all right? But there's no excuse for how many explosive plays we gave up. You got Marvin Jones out there with almost 200 yards in and of himself. That is unexcusable. I don't care. And we saw Eric Ebron with a career day. He set a record, a personal best against us. That's not acceptable no matter who's on the field. And of course, we remember what Stephon Diggs did to us the week before. So we definitely have things to clean up in the defensive backfield. And was that not the position we thought we had a lot of players? We thought we had a lot of depth at that position in the defensive backfield. We had Randall and Rollins coming back, taking a step forward. Well, all of a sudden now we're looking at Randall and Rollins, and if you were going to characterize them right now, I would say that they've taken a step back. Okay? And that is on the surface, and that's way too general to some extent. It's not fair to them to some extent, because they've, you look at, was it Randall with that interception, and the game was absolutely phenomenal. If their confidence doesn't wane and they come back from this bye week and get some things corrected, we could be back on course. Let me tell you another thing that makes me think that this defensive backfield is going to get back on course. Because part of the reason we play a lot of defense, we face the line of scrimmage. We don't go up and man up. We don't hit and trail as much, is because we look for opportunities to break on passes and make interceptions. All right, now how many of you remember in the Detroit Lions game, how many interceptions we had one. How many interceptions should the Packers have had minimum in this game? Minimum. Ball in hands of the defensive backfield. We should have at least had a total of 4, all right? Ladarius Gunter should have had one, Hyde should have had one, and Joe Thomas should have all had interceptions in this game, right? So yes, there's nothing we can do. Hindsight is 20/20, but you look at what our defense is trying to do, and we almost really had an excellent day in terms of turnovers in the game against the Detroit Lions. Now, obviously, it's politics and hand grenades as far as that goes. That's the only time it counts. But look forward and think about if we just get those couple of things corrected and we start pulling down those balls, it's going to be really, really exceptional on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, our defensive backfield right now, I am not so sure about. So, the summary to me, if you're going to characterize our defense right now, I'm throwing the page away. If you're going to characterize our defense right now, I would say we have one of the best rushing rotations in the game right now. We don't have so many superstars, but we've got one of the best rushing rotations in the game right now. And remember, depth is what's going to help us down the road. This is the reason we are going to beat the Minnesota Vikings in December. It's not because if you put our ones against their ones, they can't match us or outdo us. It's because our team is a better team from top to bottom than the Minnesota Vikings team is right now. Look at what happens to the Minnesota Vikings if, I think automatically, you look at the way, if you pulled quarterbacks right now, if you took both of the quarterbacks off the team for the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers right now, who's going to win? Packers are going to win because we've got depth everywhere else. You look at the defensive line of the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, you would give them the nod. If you pulled out one starter, who's going to win? The Packers. We've got more depth. We've got a better rotation. Of course, I guess in that I may be assuming with Pennell. I'm counting Pennell in that. But we are going to we are going to beat the Vikings in December, and this is why. Because by then the Vikings are going to be just as banged up as we are at that point. And we are going to have a deeper team, and not just a deeper team in terms of player-to-player matchup, but a deeper team in terms of how many rookies have been on the field and played meaningful snaps and dozens of meaningful snaps on the field during the regular season. This is going to be big for us moving forward. So that's one of the things I would characterize us as. And the other thing I would characterize us as is a defensive backfield that is looking to get takeaways. Now, what do we get them or not? I think Rick just made the comment they play defensive. The defensive backs are the guys that can't make the catches. However, keep in mind, Sam Shields was a wide receiver. This was his position, and he's shown some ball skills. Problem is, we can't get him on the field right now. But you look at who we are going to bring back. We don't know when we're going to bring him. Maybe it takes 3 or 4 weeks, but we bring back Sam Shields. Maybe it takes a while. Maybe it takes a while, but we bring back Morgan Burnett. Then you shore up the defensive line. You bring back Pennell. This defensive backfield and this defense as a whole is on the cusp of taking a step forward, I believe. Again, I'm not seeing the world through green and gold colored glasses. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on this one. I'm simply looking at the situation. Look at what we've been able to do. Yeah, and Philip has mentioned, man, and the Vikings have taken their hits. They're losing a starter every week. And maybe it was you that made the comment, yesterday when we talked about this, if they're for real, that their struggle is going to be to hold that level of play. To some extent, their scheme has helped their level of play right now, and that begins to go away. It erodes it when starters start going out, but it also erodes it to some extent, when you rely on your scheme to get you into great and positive situations and get you wins. Part of it is you're putting that scheme on tape every time you play it. And there was a nice article on Pro Football Focus outlining this, and of course, Aaron Rodgers would poo-poo the fact. But the facts are there nonetheless, and you can show the way the Vikings are to some extent leaning on their defensive set. It's basically, I would call it a very vanilla defensive set, but it's very dangerous because they are putting great players in every single gap on defense. And they're playing it very evenly across the board. It's a very symmetrical set. They're basically filling every gap with a great player. And the Vikings can do that right now, and if you can do that, that is extremely difficult for an offense to handle because the pressure can come from anywhere. Anybody can drop back into coverage. However, it will erode as teams are able to see this on tape, but it also definitely takes a hit. When you can't put great players in each of those gaps, then the offense, the quarterback can audible to the weakness at that point. We can start to pick apart a defense that can't fill each gap with excellent players. So it's only a matter of time, I think, with Minnesota. And again, that's not a knock on them. You've got to take your hat off to what Minnesota has been able to do in the circumstance that they're in. And again, this is two great, well, Cam Newton and great, I can't put those words together. This is two top quarterbacks in the league that they have dis-freaking-mantled in a row. So our defense, I truly believe our defense is on the cusp of doing something really special right now. I'm putting my foot down on that, and I'm doing it for, you know, the reasons I just gave them. But let me know what you think. Now, thumbs up if you agree. You think we're definitely trending upward in defense, even though we're giving up too many explosive plays, and the Detroit Lions game could be seen as the worst one yet. Give me a thumbs up if you agree. If you are on the bless your heart, they're trying out there, you know. Put a heart up on the screen. That is okay too. But if you are not a believer yet and you're in wait and see approach, you can hit that angry face. That's okay. Remember, I'll quote it till the day I die because it's one of the best quotes I've ever heard from Elie Wiesel, who is now immortalized in his words. And I should say this, he's immortalized in his words for much more important things than the reason I'm bringing it to the table right now. But the opposite of love is not hate, folks. The opposite of love is indifference. So if you're putting an angry face on the screen, it's because you love your team and you're not happy with what they're doing, and that is perfectly legitimate here on our show. So we've got a lot of hearts. So I'm seeing a lot of hearts, which I think means there's still a wait and see because, again, you know, we struggled with Stephon Diggs against the Minnesota Vikings, and we did not win that game. But keep in mind the score of that game. This Packer defense held the Vikings to 17 points, okay? So on balance, our offense, as they begin to come in sync, you know, we're expecting this offense to score more than 14 points against everybody and to score at least 20 against just about every defense out there is what my expectation would be. And I believe this is I've said it from the beginning, that this is an offense, especially with the personnel we have right now, that should be knocking on the door of averaging 30 points a game. Now, of course, a lot of you who are in the wait and see approach on that are going to say, well, let's show it for once. And I completely agree. Obviously, we put points on the board, but we stalled in the second half in terms of our scoring. So, all right, guys, I think that's the state of where we're at. I think we can, you know, obviously it's very early to be trying to characterize this Packers team, but this is the bye week. It's a good time to take a step back, make some generalizations, and then kind of talk about expectations moving forward. So I'm going to close the show with this. It might be getting a little long for some of you. If you have to leave, that's totally fine. It's National Coffee Day. Phil is saying, have a great National Coffee Day. Take a sip, show the cup, show the ring. He's out. All right, have a great day, Phil. And everybody, you can echo Phil's words. Have yourself a nice, hot cup of Joe, cup of Phil. Take it easy, Phil. Good to see you, buddy. All right, what I want to do in closing, though, really quickly is, if you're still with me, heart me if you're still with me. I just want to know if nobody's there, then I'll just quit right now because that's just fine. But let me take a sip of coffee first. Yeah, heart me if you're still with me because I want to talk about the remaining schedule right now because we talked about what the character of this team is. Now let's talk about the remaining schedule and kind of look at our, you know, again, we may have a little bit of a different view of our chances in our matchups moving forward. Oh, there's a lot of people still out there in Packer Nation. I am liking it, guys. We come back against the Giants. I am looking at the team as we have developed, and I have my reservations about the Giants. The Giants, before the season, I would have said we destroyed them and dismantled them. But here's the reason I am now I'm concerned a little bit about the Giants. I'm going to wait a little bit. There are still a lot of people on this down a little bit. But the Giants, look at Eli is playing good ball. Eli Manning, and he's got a great bunch of wide receivers around him where he can distribute the ball. It reminds me a lot of the Lions. This is why I am now a little concerned because I don't know who we're going to have back in the defensive backfield. So I am concerned about the Lions right now because of the matchup. I think that this is a game in which we could give away a lot of yards again on the shot plays. Other than that, I would not be afraid of the Lions at all, but I am concerned about the Lions game now. The Cowboys, I think we destroy. Look at what the Cowboys can do. Dez Bryant with a hairline fracture will not be back in time, I don't believe. The Cowboys are going to have to run the ball, and I can't wait for Ezekiel Elliott to come out on the field and meet our Packer run defense. I can't wait. The Cowboys, now they've got Dak Prescott in there. I believe that we match up very, very well against the Cowboys, and they have to come to Lambeau. I think that is a 50 burger in the making, because our defense is going to give our offense more opportunities than it's had in that game, and our offense is going to click in that game, especially if we get going against the Giants. That Cowboys game, I tried to go to that game and wasn't able to do it, but that game, I like the matchup now in that game. Of course, the Bears, I think the Bears are in disarray, so I think we match up very well against the Bears. It's an NFC North rivalry game, but we are going to be out for blood after them beating us at Lambeau last year. This is another Thursday night matchup, just like Thanksgiving. We are going to destroy the Bears, I think. Now, at the Falcons, again, now we've got to travel again, and I think Roddy White left town this offseason, I believe, with the Falcons. But again, I think that to some extent my question mark about that game against the Falcons, again, will be because of the defensive backfield. Now, if we've got Morgan Burnett back by that time, even if our defensive line rotation is still not quite as strong, I think we beat the Falcons. If we do not have Morgan Burnett and Sam Shields will be the big question marks. If we have both of those guys back, I think that's going to be a very good matchup for us. If neither of those guys are able to go at that point, I think we could have trouble away against the Falcons. The Colts are a team that on paper you'd think would be tough. I think when you look at Andrew Luck, I think he's a guy that can do some good things against our Packer defense by the way we play it, but I don't think he's going to be able to go out there and get the shot plays. I don't think Andrew Luck is going to have those 20-plus plays on us the way the way Matthew Stafford has. You look at Bradford and Stephon Diggs. I just don't think he's going to have that on us. And again, now this is the point at which hopefully, if we don't have other injuries, knock on wood, we're going to start seeing some of these guys coming back. I expect to start seeing Morgan Burnett on the field, Sam Shields back at that point. Now, how about after the Colts game? We have got a 3-game road stretch at that point. Now, at this point, this is where and Terry's saying the Colts are as good as Luck plays. That's a pretty good characterization, because Frank Gore, they brought him in. He has really not done a lot. Again, I'm still amazed that after all these years he is running the way he is, so I'm not going to sit here and knock Frank Gore, but he does not scare me when you look at our run defense. Frank Gore does not scare me a bit. When we played them, when he was on the 49ers, he had something to say to us. Well, we've got something to say to him this time around, is what I think. So nice point there. Thank you for that. But let's talk about this. Now, Mike McCarthy mentioned this, okay? Listen close to this. If you didn't catch it, this is important. Again, part of my job, I think, is to try to read between the lines and pay attention to what the coaches are saying and try to extrapolate a little bit about what's going on. But listen to this. Coach McCarthy made a very good point. He said that, remember, our off-season, preseason, and our season schedule are very weird right now. That's about the only way to characterize it. We traveled for 4 weeks from preseason into the season, 2 games of the season. We finally get back to Lambeau in week 3. Then we have our bye week. Are you kidding me? Now we've got this run of games. Then you look at November. We have the game against the Colts November 6th, and then 6th. And then we never see Lambeau Field until December, folks. We have a game November 6th at Lambeau against the Colts, and we never set foot on Lambeau Field again until December, guys. 3 away games in a row. Now look at the end of the season. We come back in December. We have the game against the Seahawks on the 11th, Texans on the 4th. The last 3 games of the season are all NFC North rivalry games. This season is freaking mad. It's bizarre. But here's the point that Mike McCarthy made. All right? He said the preseason and the weirdness of the bye week and the fact that we had all these Thursday night weird time frame games, he said was going to be good for our team moving forward, because we will be more prepared than any team in the league to have these these weird things happen. To have to play 3 away games, Packers are prepared. To have to play 3 NFC North rivalry games at the end of the year, Packers team are prepared, more prepared than any team in the league. To have Thursday night games and then come to, to have a Thursday night game give you a little bit of a boost as a bye week. Packers are prepared for these kinds of things. And this stretch in November is very interesting to me. I circled it because we've got to play the Titans, the Redskins, and the Eagles in that stretch, all right? None of these guys are anybody to sneeze at. You can't look at the record from last year. Redskins were a playoff team. Eagles were not, but they were 1 year away from being a playoffs team, and they are playing. They are 3-0 right now, if I remember right. They are playing very good ball right now. Titans, I'm not afraid of that matchup, but they are an improved team. So that stretch is going to be really important. I've got in the back of my mind, I've got to think we drop one of those. I've got to think we drop at least one of those away games. Again, you look at if this defense develops and the offense clicks, we can be a very dominant team. There's no question about that. Hey, Tucson, how you doing? He says hello to Packer Nation out there. Now you've got the string in December of NFC North matchup games. Yeah, this is the crucial run right there. And what we do away from Lambeau Field, we've got the Texans. Texans are going to be without J.J. Watt for all intents and purposes. Sorry, JJ. Sorry to see you not come to Lambeau. I was looking forward to that, really, just to see J.J. Watt, who played for the Badgers, Wisconsin kid, come back and play at Lambeau Field. I'm afraid he would have snapped Aaron Rodgers in half, but I really, really feel bad for JJ. But I think the Texans win that game. I think the Texans can beat the Seahawks. But again, this is the gateway game to a very bad stretch of games. We've got the Bears, who, yes, we should meet, but we're playing away. We're playing at Soldier Field this time. And then we've got the Vikings at home. And listen to this, guys. We play the Vikings at home. This is going to be probably the pivotal game of the year. We've seen it every year. Most every year since they changed it and made division matchups are always, every last game of the season is division matchups across the league right now. And we have seen these games come down to one game for the playoffs so many times. This year, it may be the second to the last game. And it may be home field advantage that we're playing for at that point. Packers play the Vikings at home. But listen to this. Last game of the season. Vikings go to play at Detroit, which we know is a difficult place to play. And the Vikings play the Bears. So the Vikings play the Bears last game of the season, and we got to go to Detroit and play the Lions, okay? So there are about, I think coming back from the bye week, we're going to run the table up to, and we've talked about this, up until that stretch in November. That stretch in November, I'd expect we may drop one there. Now we've got 2 losses under our belts, and then you look at those last 4 games. Maybe we lose 2 in that stretch. I don't know. Again, this is why the state of the team is too hard to. You can't get a divining rod on 3 games that's really going to prove to be accurate in any regard. If we get some guys back healthy, then yeah, we may play really well through that stretch of away games. But I think we drop 1, maybe 2 now. We've got 2 losses. In the meantime, with that stretch of games and in Detroit, do we drop 2 more in there? Do we end up with 4 losses at the end of the season? I think it's very realistic. I think that would be a very realistic thing to say at this point. Now, which then the question becomes, 12-4, that's not a bad record at all. Is 12-4 enough for home field advantage? Do the Packers need home field advantage? Again, they would be a team better prepared than any team in the league to travel in the playoffs. Look at 2010. We were a 6th seed in 2010 and won the Super Bowl. Look at the way that the schedule was laid out for us. They did this on purpose because our strength of schedule percentage-wise was poor. That's why our schedule is like that. I guarantee it. Is 12-4 enough for the playoffs? Oh, for sure, I would think. Yeah. Because we know that, we know the Vikings, then it would be who is going to be playing for that extra spot. But then the question becomes, can the Packers get home field advantage? Do they need it? I don't think that I think the Packers are as well prepared as any team in the league to travel during the playoffs. But boy, do we want to play at Lambeau? Oh, heck yes, we do. I think 13-3 we play at Lambeau because then you've got to assume that our division record is going to be quite good. But if we go 12-4, or let's say we've dropped 3, and you go into that game now you've got that game against the Vikings, and then you've got the flip flop where the Vikings have to play the Bears. It's basically like a bye week going into the playoffs. it could be very interesting down the road. Terry's got us winning the North as a 2 seed. That could very well be the case. Yep. Yeah, and Gary's 12-4 gets us in there. And really, again, all we want to do is get there because this team can do anything. We can do a lot on the road. Look at what we did. And I hate to go back to the Arizona Cardinals game, but for crying out loud, did the Packers not deserve to move on? No, we probably wouldn't have beat the Carolina Panthers, but we would have put in a better showing than the Cardinals did. And look at the injuries on that team. And a second Hail Mary in one season, and I feel like the Packers can travel and beat anybody on the road that's out there. But a big part of this, again, because we are Packers fans, we are not looking to just get in the playoffs. And to some extent, we are not even in 2016 looking to go deep. This team has big plans on its horizon. So then you have to ask the final question. Eric's got us at 15-1, always the underdogs, even in 2010, says Yolanda. Yeah. And sometimes I think this team responds well to that. But the biggest question of all, and it's one that, theoretically it's way too early to ask, but you can't help but ask. Is this a Green Bay Packer? Look at the NFC all told. Who is out there that can challenge the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots right now? I think if of all the teams out there, if the Packers continue to hit their stride on offense, get some health on defense, and start to play a little ball, do a little better against the shot plays, the Green Bay Packers are the team that can do this right now. I'm not saying it's going to happen. There's way too much football in between. But I will say this, and I'm going to close. I'm excited to watch this team coming back from the bye. Are you excited? If you're still here and you're excited about the Packers coming back from the bye week with a big game against the Giants at home, give me a heart on the screen right now. We'll finish it up. And if you didn't get a shout out, go ahead and put your name up and where you're coming from. Throw me a heart, and we will close with that. I hope you guys have a great day. It's Thursday, folks. Football is back, even though it's not Packer football. Eric is here. He says it's Eddie Lacy's year. Elias, Green Bay can. All right, I like that attitude. Anybody else out there that didn't get a shout out, just throw your name up on the screen. Let me know who you are, where you're coming at me from, and we'll give you a shout out on the way out of today's show. Jared's, he's rubbing my nose in it again that Friday's here. I got to remember to qualify that every time. I'm going to remember, and then you're going to have nothing to say, dude. Listen, I still got my coffee, so good enough. Patrick and Robert and Peter Vargas with a lot of green and gold hearts out there. Josh and Wayne is here from Houston. All right. Josh is saying Steelers, Patriots, Packers, and Eagles. Yeah, that's a good rundown. The Steelers got kind of whooped up on. I'm kind of surprised at where they're at. Wayne is here. Elias, Alex, Jared's laughing again. Robert from Phoenix. We got Scott from Iowa. Peter Vargas. I should know where you're from. Lacey's going to take us to the promised land. Man, I hope so. And Sean is here from California. Justin. Hey, later, man. Have a good one. Later, Brader. I love that, dude. That's awesome. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Have an awesome day. All right, guys, I'm going to close it up at that. You guys have a fantastic day. Tomorrow's Friday. It's time to get her done. Football is going to be back real soon. Be safe. Have fun. Go Pack. Get the ring.